Welcome, Matt Frederick here. Today's chat is going to be all about Belize, a great place to invest, a great place to vacation to, a great place to retire to as well. Let's get into it. I'll start off by telling you what I'm doing there right now. So in Belize currently with my business partner, I'm actually building a 3-unit, 3-story, so 3 floors with a rooftop patio, 2,400 square foot house. And this house would take us 5 months to build. Why 5 months? Well, we have the crews, we have the teams, we have the systems. We've been there for 4 years. I actually first invested in Belize in 2007, so now it's been a long time, over 13 years. And we built back then also. And right now we're about 3.5 months into our build, and here's where we're at. So we took this design from paper into reality. This property is rebar and cement. So not how they build houses in Canada or the US, sticks and stones. Hurricane 4 category protection. Although Belize has not seen a hurricane in a long time. Okay, let's get into Belize. Let me talk a bit about it. Oh, and by the way, from March to July this year, we plan to build 6 more of these. So I have a great opportunity that if you want to hear more about after this is done, contact me and I'll let you know a bit about it. Okay, Belize. Well, as you can see from the screen right away, that's where you want to be. You want to be in that sand. You want to be in that water. It's beautiful. Now, where is Belize? Well, Belize is below Mexico and to the right of Guatemala. So let me tell you how I got to Belize. Back in 2007, I thought, you know what? Let me take 6 months. Let me travel Central America. And I went to Mexico, southern Mexico, went to Guatemala, went to Nicaragua, went to Honduras, went to Belize, went to Jamaica and Panama. And I spent about 2 or 3 weeks in each area, just immersing myself, trying to get an understanding of the space, the people. How do I feel when I'm there? Am I comfortable? Do I feel safe? At every variety store, is there some armed guard? And therefore, I went with just an open thought. And spending 2 or 3 weeks in each place gave me a chance to wake up, go down to that little cafe, speak to an old timer, just to get the real truth about a place as opposed to what we see in brochures. Then I had a chance to investigate the government, see how real estate is done, talk to lawyers, people in high position, and tourists, just to get a good feel. And surprisingly enough to me, the only place that I'd never heard of, which is Belize, was the place that stood up. So I didn't choose Belize. Belize sort of chose me. It stood up for a whole bunch of reasons that I'm going to share with you. Now, here are some of those winning facts, those winning reasons why I actually went with Belize. Number one, it has a temperate climate. I like that. The fact that 5.5 months is incredible, and then we have the rest of the time more into a rainy season, but still 2 months of that, not too bad. And then of course we get into a deeper rainy season. When it comes to, I'd say September, October, November, I enjoy the climate. I enjoy that I can spend 6 months of the year there. I enjoy that I can rent out my facility for more than 6 months in the busy season and then slow it down a little bit in the rainy season. English is the official language. Now, why is that important? Because whenever I buy something and I go through the contract, I speak English. I want to make sure that I understand the contract and that the words are not my enemy. See, some of these countries, you have Spanish, great language. I don't speak it. I don't read it. We have French. I don't speak it. I don't read it. So English is so important for me. So I have a bit of control of actually what I'm actually going through. Democratic government, in fact, is the exact same government that we have here in Canada. I think in Canada, it's called the Westminster bicameral system. Now we have 2 or 3 parties, but the fact is Belize has the exact same government, which makes me feel comfortable. I like that it's British common law. Now, why is it important to have British common law? Well, if it's French Napoleonic law, perhaps someone can squat on your property, and if you're not there, that property could become theirs. So I like the British common law, and plus, North America is based on British common law. Also, England, Australia, some of the places that I like to visit. Land titles, land registry. So your property is secured under land titles, land registry. No one can just take your property from you. I like the fact that the US dollar is always 2 Belizean dollars. So the Belizean dollar is pegged to the US dollar. Therefore, if I'm ordering a pizza, it's not like 3,000 pesos. I don't know if 3,000 pesos is a good price or a bad price. The fact is, if a pizza is $10 Belizean, I know it's $5 US. Is that worth a pizza? So that helps me to negotiate with my contractors, helps me to negotiate if I'm buying something, helps me to get a better understanding, again, feel more control of my environment, which I think is very important when you're doing things away from home. Very low cost of living. Back in 2007, when I was staying in Belize, I had a person come on in, clean the house, cook breakfast, do the laundry, prepare my lunch, and I think it was $20 US a day I was paying. And I tried to pay more, but they wouldn't accept more. I mean, is that not crazy? Now it's a bit more expensive today, but today, even the house I showed you a few minutes ago, that nice 3-story, 2,400 square foot house, the property taxes on that is, wait for it, $75 a year. Now, where I'm from, that property's taxes would normally be around $4,000 a year. At 45 years old, you can get retirement incentives. So not 67, but 45. Take a look at the right hand of the screen. We'll see that a lot of people have heard of Ambergris Caye. It's a great place to vacation to. It's populated. I mean, I like it. It's beautiful. My issue with it is sometimes when you're looking at the beach, what you see is a whole series of jetties popping out. It's not so natural because it's sort of overdone. But again, it's the most popular area. We're down in the lower Stank Creek area called Placencia. And Placencia is a little peninsula, which I like very much. Quick review: temperate climate, English official language, democratic government, British common law, land titles, land registry, $1 is $2 Belizean, very low cost of living, retirement incentives. What more can I ask for? Let me take a moment to show you Belize through my eyes. Just images that I want to share with you. When you look at the screen, you see blue and you see green. But when you go to Belize, you really see blue and you really see green. This is the world famous Blue Hole. It's iconic. It's a place that people identify with Belize. It's a great place to scuba dive and also a great place to sail. Green, lush waterfalls, beautiful. Belize has the second largest coral reef in the world. Just a great place to visit. Or lay back on the sand, have lazy days. So from the sea to the mountains to the sand, Belize has all three. Just a great place for you to unwind and spend time with people you care about. I just see Belize as a playground. I enjoy the sand and sea, lagoons. I enjoy the activities. Horseback riding, zip lining, snorkeling, scuba diving. And if you love fishing, the tour guides are excellent. They know when to fish, where to fish. Locals grew up fishing. Birds, over 300 species, as well as the living history of the place. As a child, I did see a lot of this stuff in books. I saw it on television. But when you go to this space and you see the majesty of it and you understand that this is a whole civilization, you spend a whole 2 or 3 days just enjoying this, having a good time. Okay, let's get to some facts about Belize. Now, Belize has a population today of about 347,000, but the cities are not overly populated and the towns are not overly populated. In fact, one of the largest city would be Belize City. I spent almost no time there, but it's about 61,000 people. We spend most of our time in Placencia, which is down south, and the whole peninsula of Placencia is about 6,000 people. San Pedro is on Ambergris Caye, so San Pedro is very popular as well. Just to get understanding of where Placencia is, it is down south, and to get an understanding of population density, you can see that 5K plus are in the areas that are orange. 61K is Belize City. Even the range of 18 to 37, there isn't a whole lot. So Belize is not overpopulated. Let's talk a bit about the literacy. 76.5% of the people are literate. It is compulsory for someone to go to school for 9 years. When it comes to crime, now sometimes you hear, well, Belize might have some crime. My experience, and I've been going there for over 13 years, crime is generally in Belize City. In fact, when it comes to really violent crime, 44 out of 100,000 people will get affected. Now, Belize City has 61,000 people, and Placencia is 17 out of 100,000, and Placencia, the whole peninsula, has about 6,000 people. So those are pretty good stats. Health, life expectancy, about 68 years, and 1/3 of the population are under 14. So it's a very young population. Interesting enough, look at the population mix from male to female. It's very, very balanced. Let's take a moment to look at the economic overview of Belize. Now, Belize is considered an upper middle income country with a GDP per capita of 4,806. Despite that fact, though, 43% of the population still live equal to or below the poverty line. That's not great, but it's moving at least in a positive direction. To take a look at a few results from 2019, the population growth is increasing. So more people are going there than leaving. At the same time, the gross domestic product has increased about 4.1%, going in the right direction. Annual growth rate, steady, not good. You want more, you don't want steady. Per capita income actually declined. People are making less today than they were making a few years ago. And that's not great. Average inflation rate, though, is about 1.81%. Why is it important to have a lower inflation rate? Because my family left the Caribbean when I was 7 years old because the country I grew up in, the inflation rate was going out the door. It was increasing like crazy. And in some places, inflation is up 1,000%. So the fact that it's decreasing, that's a good sign. Poverty rate, as mentioned, is 43%, not great. They need to improve in that area. And unemployment is about 6.41%. It's a decline, which is good news. But keep in mind that tourism is one of the main drivers for Belize, and COVID-19 has really hit tourism for 2020 and definitely a portion of 2021. So incentives for a qualified retired person, from now on I'll call them QRP, qualified retired person. So what qualifies you to retire there? Number one, Belize is looking for foreign investment. They're actually looking for foreigners to retire in Belize. And most people who retire in Belize are from US, Canada, Great Britain, Denmark, and Australia. They want these expats to come on in and actually bring their knowledge and bring their money. So that's why they give an incentive of you can come on here when you're 45 and consider that you're retired and get benefits from that. Now, they allow you to import your personal effects and your household goods. And the good news is up until 15,000 US, you do not pay any kind of taxes on that. So there's no import tax on 15,000 US of the goods that you bring to the country. You're also exempt for your vehicle, which is huge. You're exempt for your light boat, which is huge, and you're exempt for your light plane, and that's major as well. So you can see who Belize is trying to attract. And keep in mind that if you make money anywhere else in the world, you don't have to pay tax on that money to Belize. You know, as a Canadian, if we make money anywhere in the world, we have to report that money and pay tax on it. So Belize is a little bit different that way. Okay, so we talked a bit about retirement incentives. Let me talk a bit about immigration, and then I'll show you guys what we're doing down there. You're a visitor to Belize. Well, you can stay 30 days. You get a visa automatically. You're there 30 days, you enjoy it. Now, after 30 days, if you want to stay 6 months, you have to show that you are able to sustain yourself, which means your visa gets renewed. And when I say sustain yourself, show that you're getting paid from somewhere else, because Belize is not looking for bums to show up and hang out. They want people who can sustain themselves. Now, what if you stay over 6 months? Well, if you're staying over 6 months, then you have to apply for a work permit. And once you have that work permit, you're there. After 1 year, if you stayed there 1 year continuously, then you can actually apply for what's called permanent residency. You can be a PR. That's super, super important. Now, there are some exemptions. Look at number 5. If you are a retiree and you can show that you're making, let's say, $2,000 a month, again, these numbers will change, $2,000 a month US coming in as an annuity, then you don't have to spend the whole year. Or what if you are bringing $25,000 US in investment to the country? Then you don't have to wait the whole year. Number 6, if you are a professional and you're bringing some special skills to the country, well, Belize wants you. Obviously, you don't have to wait the whole year. So that's a little bit about immigration, a little bit about retirement, and hopefully that makes a bit of sense, just to give you a big picture. And now let's move on, talk about a few things. Now, this is the most important thing to me in Belize, my brother. So my brother is retired to Belize 4 years ago. My brother was a Canadian Navy diver. So my brother served his country as a diver and a sonar operator in the Canadian Navy. After he left the Navy, he was a police officer. And my brother spent over a decade as a police officer, again serving his country, putting service above self, and moved on from there to become a builder, a developer. Today, my brother is technically retired in Belize, but no one ever retires. He has a manufacturing company. We make our own brick. We make our own countertops. There's a lot of things that we can actually produce and make in Belize, so we are sustainable. At the same time, these things help us to save costs on whatever properties we build. And my brother is also a developer and builder in Belize. And this is an example of the house that I mentioned that he's actually building right now. Now, before I move on, this is very important. I believe when you do business in a country away from your home, there has to be somebody there that is there full time, someone who's acclimated to the area, someone who knows people in the government, someone who understands the process and works at your standard. And as I said, my brother, through the Navy, as a police officer, as a builder here in Canada for many years, as a manufacturer in Belize and a builder in Belize, understands me, understands Canada, understands the US, Great Britain, Australia, Denmark. As a Navy diver, he traveled the world and understands how business is done. And of course, brings that incredible way of doing business to Belize. I want to make money in Belize, as well as retire in Belize, as well as vacation in Belize. And I need to find a place where it's still reasonable in price, that it's not overdone, and I think is the next space to go. Don't invest where everybody is, where everyone's making money. Find the next space where they're going to make money with a proven track record that that's where things are shifting, and be there. And that's why we like Placencia. It's South Belize. And the good news is Belize gets hit with a hurricane like once every 30 years, and it generally happens around Belize City, far from us. Now, my brother, will he ever come back to Canada? Well, what does my brother say about Placencia? He says, I drink water from the tap, and it's from an aquifer. He loves it. I see bright skies every day. I breathe clean, pollution-free air. The salt and minerals flood into my body. I eat fresh eggs and free-range chickens. So in his yard, he's taught his daughter how to raise chickens, and they have fresh eggs, and well, they eat those chickens. I swim in the sea 30 seconds from my front door every day. I love the chilled atmosphere and the easy vibe that is here in Placencia. I met my beautiful wife in Belize. I don't miss cold winters, and I'm never going back. So that's his thought about Belize and Placencia. And by the way, Placencia has a 5,000-foot main sidewalk. In fact, I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records. And this joins a lot of the places where you can eat and shop and have a good time. So if you go to Belize, you have to go to Placencia. You got to take a walk on this 5,000-foot sidewalk. So what do they say about Placencia? Well, the sidewalk in Placencia is right off the beach in the heart of town and has a bunch of fun bars, souvenir shops, and restaurants. Another person, Placencia is a small village with lots of charm. It's quiet. It's quite busy with tourists, yet it's not like destinations such as Cancun, which is kind of overdone sometimes. It's still a very local and laid back atmosphere, and people are very friendly and they greet you on the streets. They still say hi to you. If you want to have a party, oh, you'll have it. Great visit. We were there for about 2 weeks and thoroughly enjoyed it. There are many restaurants and bars and shops along the sidewalk, and the sidewalk runs several blocks along the ocean. Placencia is a small town, but not lacking any amenities. And that's what average everyday people who visit Placencia say about their visit there. And that's good news. Placencia is found at the bottom of this 16-mile peninsula. If you were to run down the entire peninsula, it would take about 25 minutes to drive from tip to get to Placencia itself. And it's just a beautiful drive with lagoon on one side, beautiful lagoon, and we have the Caribbean Sea on the other side. Just an amazing drive, an amazing experience, and it's very easy to get to the sea or to lagoon, either side, within 2 or 3 minutes. let's take a minute to zoom in a little bit closer on that 60-mile peninsula. Now, a few key points. Right now, the house we are building is located in Placencia. The next property that we're going to work on, 6 units or 6 houses, which is an opportunity that I'd love to talk to you about. It's halfway from Placencia to the mainland. From Placencia, where we're building, to our next location is a 12-minute drive. There is an airport in Placencia. That airport's about 3 minutes from where we are building right now, and about 10 minutes from where we're looking to build our next location. There is a medical center in Placencia, and interesting enough, there's an airport that's under construction. Now, they've been building this for the last 10 years, and it might take 5 more years. But once this international airport comes in, this whole area is going to go crazy. The whole area, the peninsula, a flight directly in, about 12 to 15 minutes away from Placencia, that's going to be a game changer. And Norwegian Cruise Lines have also built an amazing seaport just off the coast of Placencia as well. So a lot of tourists who come in, they tend to take a skiff to Placencia, enjoy their time there, and then back to the island. Placencia has a lot in store for it over the next 2 or 3 years. And keep in mind, there's a lot of pent-up anxiety for people who've been locked down for 2020 and 2021 to really get out and go wild. If I were to focus for a second on the lower left-hand corner, looking at Placencia, the town itself, notice there's a straight side here, and there's a curved side here. So remember, straight side, curved side. Now, let me blow this up for you. This here is the straight side, and that's the curved side. So this is the entire peninsula, the 16-mile run all the way in to the mainland. And right now we're building here. These houses on the same street we're building, these are $1 million houses, and we're building very close to it. Our second development is about 12 minutes away, and that's something that we can talk about more privately. It's not for everybody, and there's not enough room for everybody, and it's something that we have to work on right away because we're getting ready for 2022. People will go crazy. People also are saying to me they want to have a house that they can go to. That feeling as though if things are not working out in my country, I want to at least spend some 6 months of the year where I want to spend 6 months of the year. Kind of a growing, I don't know what to call it, but so many people have approached me and they've said to me, I want to have a place to go to, a refuge, a stronghold, a safety place, a fortress where I can be there if I don't have to be at my home in my country all the time. So that's important. If I were to zoom up on where we are, right now we're building right about here. And those are some of those larger houses I talked about in the lower left-hand corner. And this seaside is roughly about 30 seconds from where we are. Now, what are we building there? Well, we're building a 3-unit income generating property. It's about 80% complete. And of course, it's a design that we created because my brother, my business partner, has been there for 4 years, has had a chance to take a look and see what actually works. See, a lot of folks end up just trying to figure out, I know what I want. They go to Belize and they create what they want. It doesn't work that way. It's not what you want. It's what works. And some people just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to go down there. I'm a cowboy. I'm Clint Eastwood. It's me against the world. You can't do that. And when I say Clint Eastwood, you ever seen those Westerns where you see Clint Eastwood, he walks out in the middle of the street, he turns, lifts his poncho, got his sidearm ready. He's always against 8 people. And then he pulls a gun out, boom, 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 shoots 7 of them, because there's always a guy up in the steeple. It's got to get him too. And that guy in the steeple, not only does he get shot, he falls out of the steeple and always falls off the roof. So you never want to be that guy. What I'm saying to you is you don't have to be Clint Eastwood 1 against 8. You can have 8 on your side. And that's what we want to do with you. We are down there. We have the systems, and we're local people from where you live. But of course, we are down there having those systems, have 8 on your side, and we can help you to, I think, achieve what we have achieved down there. So again, this is a beautiful home, and I'll show you in a few minutes why we chose this as opposed to something else. Now, the layout for this property that we've chosen is subject to where we are. In other words, the portion that goes this way, and even having the circular stairs, is because we had a limited space to build, and the limited space because ultimately we wanted to incorporate something that already existed. In fact, because we have a brick making factory, this space that I'm showing you right here on the right-hand side was the office, or look at it right here. This was the office for that brick making factory. And we decided, you know what, we already have it. Let's just use that and convert it into a bedroom, a closet, and a washroom. And because the fence went on an angle, we had to make a small modification. But normally, we'd have a larger space, and the staircase that's spiral may not be spiral, but it'll be outside of the space. Just to give you a bit of an insider. In this case, we have a bedroom, a closet, a master washroom, a kitchen, living room, dining room, and this would be a bedroom. So it'd be 2 bedrooms on the main floor. The second floor would have 1 bedroom, it would have a bathroom, a kitchen, and if you wanted to have 2 bedrooms, it'd be just as easy because ultimately the spiral staircase would not be there. It would not require the angle. I would say that the next buildings that we build, we are going to have 2 bedrooms on the main floor, 2 bedrooms on the second floor. The main floor will have 1 full washroom and a half washroom for guests. The second floor will have 2 washrooms, but one of them would have an entrance from a bedroom and an entrance for guests if they came to the space. Now, mathematically, how does this look? You know, when you hear we have 3 units, you're thinking, oh, that's going to be incredible. We have people stay for a week at a time. You got 3 people coming in, staying for a week at a time. When those 3 tenants leave, then we have 3 more come in and 3 more come in. Listen, we've been there for 4 years. That is too much work. It's too much stress, too much wear and tear. And at the same time, you got to remember, there's about 5.5 months that are not peak season, which means those will not be filled. If you're going to do this, you got to do it right, got to do it smart. So our game plan is to have expatriates, people who are retiring from other countries, Australia, Denmark, England, Canada, and the US, come to Belize. They can stay 1 or 2 years as a tenant full time while we build them another house, or while they acclimate to find that other property. And here's what it can look like. A 2-year lease at $1,500 US is roughly $1,900 Canadian per month. And the fact is, it's for the entire year. And because this person is there in a 2-year lease, then it's consistent. Rainy season, hot season, dry season, they're there. Now, we do have to pay to let's say, upkeep the grounds. But if somebody lives there, then we pay less. There will be a unit for people to visit on a weekly basis. Well, this person may be able to help out with that process as well. But in a moment, I'll show you exactly what you can get. Also, because they are long-term tenants over a year, you pay 3% tax on the money that they pay as rent. If they were short-term stay under a year, it's 15%. The second floor can do the exact same thing. Put somebody in a 1-year lease. It's not a local, it's a person who comes from a different country. And don't forget, if you're going to be there for a year or 2, you have to show sustenance, which means you have to show money coming in from other places, or else you can't stay there. And that means as a landlord, I feel good that I'm getting $1,900 for the main floor, $1,900 for the second, or more. And that's consistent throughout the entire year for the next 1 or 2 years. And I'm paying less tax on it, which I like. The third floor is the money floor. This is where we have people come in and stay on a weekly basis. There are consistent people on the first floor and second, so therefore our cost for security is probably non-existent. And as the person comes in and they go to the third floor, there'll be a bedroom for them here, and the spiral staircase is not required. Therefore, we have 2 bedrooms, we have a washroom, a kitchen, and a living room, and a nice huge veranda for them to enjoy their time. Now, this is where you would bring your family when you want to use your space. Because the main and second is rented, you obviously will be there on the third floor, use it when you want to, but this is where you're renting on a weekly basis. Again, I'm going to use some very conservative numbers. If a tourist visits for 6 nights in this area, it's $150 US a night. And I'll show you a comparison in a moment. And that $150 US a night means about $900 US for the week, or $1,150 Canadian for the week. So keep this in mind. You have the main floor coming in at $1,500 US, $1,900 Canadian. You have the second floor coming in at 1900 Canadian. Then you have the third floor coming in at 1150 for 1 week. What if you rent it for 2 weeks? And what if you rent it for 3 weeks? Then, of course, things are now adding up. What if you rent it for 4 weeks? Things are adding up. But you do have to pay 15% tax on your profit here because this is long-term stay. The finishes that we like modern finishes. Have a look. And most of the things you see here, we can actually produce or make. We can create this pattern on this island or the pattern on the wall. This washroom below, we create this pattern. This is not marble. This is a pattern that we create. We can create the countertops as you see here and create such patterns on there. And that's going to help reducing costs for building. But again, we like the modern finish, the modern look. And just for a comparison, where I mentioned that we would charge $150 a night, just a few steps away, there is Ocean Breeze Beach Resort. It's a nice beach resort, 4 stars. They charge on the lowest $200 US a night. Normally they're at $230 or $250. Beautiful room, you have nice kitchen, and you have the beach. And you have lots of amenities also for about $200 US a night. It's ultra clean. It is not ultra modern. When it comes to $110 US a night, we can go to Serenade Beach, 3-star. And it's not the same as the 4-star. It's a comfortable space. That's why when I say we can charge $150 US a night, and we're always going to be close to the beach, not on the beach, but maybe a minute away or 30 seconds away from the lagoon. Let's take a moment to do a laser focus on the tourism season in Belize. We have about 6.5 months of high rent season and about 5.5 months of low rent season. And from December 15th to the end of March, I would consider that the peak season. It's dry. You have sunshine every day. You can visit the jungle. You can go through the ruins. You can do adventures. You can go to the beach. The reason why I say December is because people come for Christmas and also for New Year. So going to the end of December, rainy season is just ending up. And now that's when people begin to start coming to Belize. And also there's Carnival in February the following year. Now, April to May, it's not as dry. It's dry, a bit more humid. You can do all the same things. Sunshine is there for you. You can do jungle tours. You can look at the ruins, do all the adventures that's available, spend time on the beach. Easter and Chocolate Festival are the bigger draws for that period of time. Now coming to June, July, we're getting into the light rainy season. So June, the kind of rain you would have is it might rain in the afternoon, maybe for 1 hour. And after the 1 hour, it dries up and it might rain all night, dry up by the morning. When you get into July, it's more rain. June, I would consider still a great time to visit. And the Lobster Festival, by the way, happens in June. And Ambergris Caye and Placencia are 2 great places to visit for that. August to November, it's a rainy season. It's not a high rental time. And there are festivals that go on. When is my money-making time? It's about 6.5 months from the end of December all the way to the end of May. And June is still doable. So right about now, most people are thinking, okay, I'm here, Belize is there. How do I get a piece of that peninsula? How do I get a house down there, house that I like, and use that for vacation, maybe even a retirement home, and make some money on it, have people pay for it while I'm actually using it? Well, that's where we come in. And we're able to build in Belize at about $100,000 US less than most people. And we can do that because we have great systems and procedures and policies. Plus, we have the experience of building. And we were there for 4 years, just making the right connections. So if you want to buy a piece of land, here's how it works. And here's how it will work with us. Number one, what is the purchase of land cost and what is a building cost? Well, let's take a look at it in more detail. We would find a double wide lot for you. Now, why double wide? Why not a single lot? Because we believe that you should have 2 houses on a property. Now, today, yes, build 1, that's great, but you always want to have the potential in the future to have a second house. Whether you do it or not, it doesn't matter. The potential is what we've identified as one of the key factors that people don't make money with investments. They buy 1 lot, have 1 house, 5 years downrange, they're like, man, I wish I had a second house, or I wish I can have a house to rent and a house to live. So therefore, we take care of that by making sure we get you a double wide lot. And a double wide lot is about $130,000 Canadian. Now, is that on the beach? Is that on the lagoon? It's on neither. See, that beach lot, a double wide, would cost about $350,000, and the lagoon lot would be about $230,000. We believe it's important to get an 80-foot by 70-foot lot, 80-foot wide by 70-foot deep, about 2 minutes from the beach and about a minute from the lagoon. Now, in Belize, you cannot own beach, so anybody has access to beach. That's why we believe you should be close enough, but really not on the beach. Now, what do we build on these properties? Well, we can build for $250,000 Canadian a triplex that's about 2,250 square feet. I know it sounds crazy. Most people in Belize will say to you that would be about 350 to 375. Again, we can do it because we have the systems and the experience. Landscaping would be about 10,000, and all your architectural, your city fees, development fees would be about 10,000. So for $400,000 Canadian, you can have a double wide lot with the option to put a second house there in the future, have a triplex ready to generate income, give yourself a place to vacation, also have a retirement home, and the good news is somebody will pay for it over the next number of years. Now, when you're buying land, there are always additional costs. So there's stamp, and that stamp, it's almost like a land transfer tax, and it's about $10,400 on the $130,000, and GST is about $15,600 on the $130,000. You do have to pay a Belizean lawyer to close a deal for you, and that's about $1,450, and you have to have a corporate seal, or you have to have a lawyer seal here in Canada, and that's about $300. So about $27,750 closes your deal. $400,000 gets you land and a house built. Now, when it comes to our building costs, we can build and sell at certain prices that others can't. At the bottom of the screen where it says build costs, $112 a square foot, that's actually what you're buying for. That's what it costs you to have that house. Our building cost is actually less than that. We don't make a lot of profit on the build. We make a bit more profit on the land and on the relationship going forward. What would it cost to operate this property once it's built? Well, generally, if you were living there by yourself or your family full time, then electrical would be about 4,000 Canadian. The water would be about $350 a year. The internet and TV would be about $500 a year. Property taxes, $100. Insurance, $1,250. And maintenance and lawn would be about $1,600. So your complete total annual expense to operate this property, if you were living there full time, would be about 7,800 Canadian. If you're not there full time, in fact, let's say you never visit, well, then your property taxes are still $100, your insurance is still $1,250, and your maintenance on lawn is still going to be about $1,600. So it's about $2,950 as your annual fixed cost if the property were vacant, just to carry it. Now, what if this were a business? What would the financial projections look like? When it comes to the returns that you can expect, let's take a look at that. The purchase price is $400,000. The net operating income would be about $44,780. If you were to borrow money to buy this property, let's say you put 20% down, so let's say you put about $80,000 down, like you would do it in most countries, 20% down, cash out of your pocket, and you were to get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit of about $320,000. Now, today's rates are around 2%, but what if you were to pay 3%? Well, that would be about $1,600 a month. And if you paid $1,600 a month on your $320,000 home equity line of credit, that would be about $19,200 a year to service your debt. That's your debt service. So if your net operating income is $44,779 minus your debt service, your projected cash flow is about $24,780, or pretty close to $25,000. Now, these properties can generally appreciate about 3% a year if nothing amazing happens. So if that airport comes in, that's a whole different story. But if nothing amazing happens, you can expect 3% a year. 3% on $400,000 is about $12,000. So together, what's coming into your pocket is $24,780, and the value of appreciation about $12,000. That's speculation, but at least there is an appreciated value that you will receive if you were to, let's say, sell that property. It would take about 12.9 years to pay this property off if you were to take the cash flow and use all the cash flow, which is highly unlikely, but use all the cash flow to actually pay down your home equity line of credit. Most people would like to pay it off within 15 years. Let's take a look at the income that you can generate. Now, before I do that, look at the bottom of the screen where we say expatriates. Now, remember, we like to rent to people who have just moved to Belize, who are retiring to Belize, who have a massive amount of, let's say, money from the country they came from, or they're showing a proof of sustenance, which to us is very important. And this is common. Expatriates, people who are moving to Belize, they pay between 1,800 and 2,500 Canadian a month as just basic rent for a good space. So 18 to 2,500. In our example, I'm going to use 1,900. So not 18, but 19. Not 25, but 19. Can our space command 2,500 a month? Yes, it can. But in this scenario, we'll just be conservative. We'll use 1,900 for long-term rent. Now, short-term rent, we can charge about 150 Canadian a night. And for 6 nights in a row, that's about 1150 Canadian. Keeping that in mind, let's take a look at what sort of money can be made if you were to rent out this triplex, and you'll see exactly why we've used this type of structure to help you get there sooner. Okay, first person, monthly rate, unit 1, long-term, $1,900 a month. That's $22,800 a year. Now remember, we put them in a 1 or 2 year lease. That's consistent money coming in dry season and rainy season. The second person is on the second floor, unit 2, 1,900. Well, times that by 12, you have 22,800. Now, when it comes to short-term rent, let's say that there are 52 weeks in a year. Let's divide that in half to say that you've only rented for half the time. And keep in mind that people are pent up, they're cooped up right now. So I see 2022, 23, 24, 25, 26, just amazing years for people to actually travel, because being cooped up really makes you realize what's important. If we were to take 26 weeks at $1,150, that's $29,000. So of course, if it were every single week of the year, it'd be $59,000. It's not going to happen. $29,900 is if it rented for half the period of time. Combining the 22.8 and 22.8 and 29.9, we're at about $75,500 best case scenario using these numbers. Let's take a look at what it costs to actually run a business down there if you were renting things out. I'm using standard percentages that people use to calculate projections in Belize. Rental management. Now, people generally go with 10%. I'm going with 15% just to be ultra conservative. 15% rental management fee of $75,500 is $11,320. This rental management fee is for someone to run the entire business for you, hands off. You do nothing. But if you are doing something, for instance, using Airbnb, Airbnb will charge you 3%. And 3% is $22.65. What I'm doing here is I'm combining hands off and Airbnb, eating up 18% just to cover every single scenario you would run into. Now, operation and guest expenses would be 3%. And what is that? It's making the beds, it's doing the laundry, it's putting those little cute soaps that everybody likes into the washroom. Marketing and accounting. Now, marketing is mainly through Airbnb, and that's why you're paying 3%. But if you were to do some extra marketing, which you don't have to, but if you did, and if you were to consider your accounting fee, that's about 2%. Now, maintenance and management is very important. Things grow very rapidly in Belize. So you have to have someone maintaining the property, and 3% is very common. And $22.65 is a good chunk of change for a Belizean worker. It's a good part of their yearly income, 1/3 in most cases. Utilities and insurance. Usually it's 4%. I've made it 5%. That's 3,775. Property taxes on the house that we're building, the triplex, is $75 a year. I've made this 150. You do have to pay a Belizean tax on your profits, so 1.75% on the 75,000. And now I've also included the 3% on the long-term stay and the 15% on the short-term stay. Total expenses, 30,721, which is nicely aligned to 40%, because 40% is actually what you want to aim for your expenses when it comes to rental properties around the world. Because don't forget, you have your expenses, 40%, you still have to pay your debt service, your mortgage, or your line of credit. Now, why am I saying line of credit? Because you don't want to go to a Belizean bank to get a mortgage at 13 or 14%. You want to get that from maybe looking at your house or one of your investment properties, getting a line of credit on that property, and then using that money to buy the Belizean property, land and property, and then with the interest rates so low, the income generated here will definitely make those payments, plus put about $24,000, $25,000 into your pocket. So that's a look at the financial projections. Now, what if I were to be more realistic with the rent rates? As I said, we have 1,800 and 2,500. I'm only using 19. It's more likely you can get 2,100 from both parties here. So let's take a look and see how that looks. If I were to consider 2,100, which is still far below 2,500, the income goes up to 25,200 in both cases. So now we're at $80,000. At $80,000, we're looking at 32,445 expense. It's still 40% expense. And then, of course, we include debt service, which is the same. And now we'll see our cash flow is at 28,000 and change. We can pay the property off in 11 years if we were to apply the entire cash flow to the payment program to pay off the line of credit. A lot of people don't do that. They do some sort of a combination. And again, this is what it looks like when it comes to investing in Belize. And these are the numbers you can expect because this is what we've seen over the last 4 years. Now, in this next segment, I want to share with you some of the ins and outs of building, because developers or builders, they don't really get into this. They show you like a nice brochure. They say your lot could be here, and here are all the great things we're going to build. And all of a sudden, people put a lot of money into it. I mean, the biggest problem that I discovered when I was traveling through Central America, looking at all the opportunities that there are, people come to you with these massive developments, 300 lots, 500 lots. We're going to build a concession. We're going to build a clubhouse. We're going to build a golf course. I personally don't think I ever want to invest in these massive things because most people can't get them done. It's complex. It takes a lot of complexity to do that. I've built a 113 house subdivision in Canada, a million regulations. Now, Belize has less regulations, but still there's a lot of moving parts. And you have to depend on everybody to be on a certain timeline. And therefore, I see the people come in, they'll spend $150,000 on a lot, and 5 years later, whether it's in Honduras or Nicaragua or Panama or Costa Rica or even Belize, they might spend 3 or 4 years, nothing's happening. So we believe in small subdivisions. If it's a single house, that's cool. If it's 6 or 12 units, that's doable. If it's under 21 units, that's doable. But we like to do it in chunks of 6 because it's important to give the person who's investing what they're asking for. In the timeline they're asking for it, not give them excuses. And our system of building is a little bit different in the sense that my brother spent the time seeing the best practices and changing things to make it better, make it faster, make it stronger. So in Placencia, the water level is about 4 feet below the ground. In Canada, you have to go down 4 feet because it's called the frost line, because we have cold winters. You don't have a frost line in Placencia, but the fact is there is water about 4 feet down. So how they build down there, the footings or foundation, they use something called a floating pad. And what is that? It's a rebar mesh, as you can see here. Now this could be 5 feet by 5 feet. At least that's what we use. The code calls for maybe 3 feet, 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet. But we always go a bit stronger. And of course, you have your columns coming up. And this mesh becomes a footing. It's in the ground, could be about 2 feet down. It's filled with concrete and mesh, as you see it here. And this is one of the columns coming out. And then a few feet away, you have another 5 foot by 5 foot rebar concrete pad. Now, on top of this pad, we put what's called a footing. That's why we call it a floating footing. And therefore, if you look at it in this section over here, we have that pad, and then now we have the footings for the property that are now floating, not technically floating, but they're on the ground, but they're above that pad. And that's just the standard way they build there. So therefore, you have your 5 foot 5, you have your foundation, and you have your column. Therefore, you see the pad right here, and then you see the rebar for the footing, and then you have the columns going up. And that's the combination of what is done. Therefore, what we have on the right-hand side, we have the footing. And below this, you can't see it, are those large pads. And then we have our forms that we pour concrete into. And interestingly, these forms are normally wood. One of the things that we do is we have metal forms. We design these. And the reason why you want to use a metal form is because you don't have to have carpenters there making forms out of wood. And then when you remove the forms, you throw the wood away. That's a wasted time, extra labor, and wasted time. And the forms are only as good as the carpenter. Well, in our case, we have metal forms. We're the only ones that use these. And you pour the concrete in, and you can see the workers agitating the concrete. Make sure there's no air in the concrete. And once we're done, we take the form off. And now you have your columns. And we also have, instead of wood forms for the walls going up, we have metal forms. Again, they're reusable. We don't need carpenters to build the forms. They're already there. So we're saving wasted wood, we're saving labor. And in these forms, you can have cement, you can have cinder blocks. And what we do is we have cinder block with a special lightweight concrete that pours into the cinder block, make it much stronger. As you can see, this type of building has horizontal columns. Now, what's in behind these wood frames? Well, take a look closely over here. You'll see we have the mesh. Then we put the wood frames up. There's the mesh, the wood frames up. So we do need a carpenter for this level. We pour the concrete in. And when you do, it hardens up. Then you remove the wood. And when you remove the wood, you have these columns. Now, this construction is way, way stronger, maybe 2 or 3 times stronger than how we build in the US normally, and how we build houses in Canada, because you want them hurricane resistant. Now, I did mention Belize gets a hurricane once in 30 years. Usually it's Belize City that gets hit. Now we have our columns, and then from there, we have to then put our roofs on, our ceilings on. Now, here's how we're a little bit different. Normally, this is how you do a ceiling. You put down plywood. And then when you have plywood, you put your rebar on top of the plywood. And then you pour concrete into that rebar. Now, 21 days later, when the concrete is hardened, it's cured, you then remove the plywood, and that floor becomes one block of concrete and rebar. So again, plywood, rebar, concrete. Here's how we're different. In Belize, if they're making the ceiling for floor number 1, they use something called bush sticks. These are bush sticks. They're tree trunks. And these tree trunks, this is the main floor here, looking to the left. These tree trunks are sitting on blocks, and they have little T-junctions that hold up the plywood. And as you can see, every 1 foot, every 1 or 2 feet, going all the way back, these T-junctions hold up the plywood. And now with that plywood, you put the rebar in there, and then you pour the cement. Now, we do that in Canada when it comes to building condo buildings. Look over here. These vertical metal beams would be the bush sticks. And what we use in Canada is cross beams horizontally going one way, and then cross beams going the other, which are being held up by these metal racks, bush sticks, and then the plywood. And then on top of the plywood will come the rebar. And then, of course, you would pour the concrete into the rebar. Now, 21 days later, when it's cured, we remove the plywood, we remove the metal supports, and we remove the vertical supports. Just like in Belize, when it's dried 21 days later, you remove all the sticks. So just to review, we have plywood in Belize, plywood in Canada. We have metal supports for the floor. In Belize, you have stick supports. We have vertical supports are bush sticks. Now, here's how we're different. In this scenario, you can't work for 21 days. This whole main floor is out of service because you can't squeeze in there to do anything. Now, what if you had 3 floors? That's 21 days to get the ceiling on the first floor, 21 days to get the ceiling on the second floor, and then 21 days to get the roof on the third floor. That's over 2 months, 60 days downtime. You can't do anything when you use bush sticks. We don't do that. This is a major cost saver and time saver for when we build. Now, we use a different system, a better system that they use in Canada and also in Belize. You see, in Canada and Belize, it's rebar and concrete ceiling. Of course, Belize held up with bush sticks, in Canada held up with metal. We use what's called rib steel. As you can see here, it's a rib steel, and the ribbing makes it stronger. We use rebar, so we have the same rebar mesh, and we use concrete. The difference is the ribbed steel stays there, whereas they use plywood and then remove the plywood. We keep the steel and the rebar and the concrete, which makes our house super strong, stronger than what you see in the area. Does it cost more? Yes, it does cost more to keep that rib steel in there, but it costs even more to have downtime of 21 days. In other words, we found a better balance that makes more sense. Looking at it from the opposite side, you can see the rebar across the actual metal ribbing, and then now we just pour the concrete in there, as you can see in the bottom corner, and this is a much stronger system. Now let's take a look from the underside. We can see that the metal ribbing, which stays in place, is holding up the rebar and the concrete for the next 21 days while we're free to work in the space below it. We don't have bush sticks every 1 foot. And as we're free to work in the space below it, we can work on the floor, we can do the plumbing, we can frame up the walls, we can do the electrical, we can actually continue to build the walls going up, put in the cinder block to build up the walls. And that way, being able to do the concrete block, we're not sitting idle for a period of time. This is the top of the beam. Here's a beam, and this is what it would look like. Now, people might say, well, you have a metal ceiling. Well, we can paint that, or we can put straps in and put drywall against it, just like a ceiling that you would have in any first world country. Here are a few things that we like to do standard. We like 10-foot ceilings. It gives the room a bigger feel. It gives it a more luxurious feel. It's a more open concept. We can let more light in because you're there to see that light and feel that light, to see the environment. And you'll notice above the regular wall size, we have a space to put in what we call interior horizontal windows that can open up and allow airflow throughout the property. So as air comes through the window, we can open these upper flaps above the regular wall here, and air comes throughout the house, saving you on air conditioning. At the same time, you have to be mindful of creating a cold environment on the inside and a hot environment on the outside. That can create moisture. And we use emery for some of the walls, and emery is a wood that is termite resistant. And that wood just brings down some of the weight costs and allows us to shape the walls the way we want to. Sometimes you can't get that effect using cinder block. So we do things a little bit different, smarter, and save time and effort. These metal forms, as I mentioned, save us from having too many guys on deck trying to do all the wood forms, and then those wood forms have to be thrown away. And with the metal forms, they're very consistent and very quicker, consistent process. And when we're agitating the concrete, it's a lot easier because it's stronger than wood. Wood sometimes can shift, metal does not. So there's a benefit to us there. And then once you pull off those forms, now you can see we have a beginning to just create that image of that property. We always have on-site security, whether it be a camera that records everything or a dog. Now we do something a little bit different than other people. We use a lightweight cellular cement solution. So our unique method of adding a slurry of lightweight cement to fill all the masonry block cavities is different. Picture a masonry block. You have cold air from the air conditioning on the inside hitting one side of the block. You have air inside the block, and the outer side is being hit with sunlight. So with heat and cold together can create moisture. And with moisture, it can create mold. I've been in some multi-million dollar houses that are beautiful, but they have a moldy smell because the cold on the inside, the hot on the outside, is causing the air to become moisture within the block and then feed mold. In our case, we fill every block. Normally there, you would fill every third or fourth block, so you have almost like a column within the block. For us, we're able to reduce internal concrete block air by filling each masonry block, and by filling each block, we're actually creating a cooler inside surface. And it increases the overall strength of the property. Filling every block increases insular value, first of all, and adds to the wall strength by being 75% lighter than regular cement mix. And it's not common there to fill every block, but we fill every block. It costs a bit more, but we save on other things, and therefore we can do it. So we can do better because we're smarter in other places. So just moving on, we have the cinder block or the concrete block, which we fill with a slurry. And then your next step is to put an inside finish. And when it comes to electrical work, again, you have to have an electrician come in, do all your electrical work, get your plumbing all done. And now you're seeing how it moves from stage one, cinder block. Now with the outside coat, it's becoming to look like it's supposed to look in the end. Then now we prime that, and then we begin to paint it. And soon we go from no windows and no railings to windows, some accent colors, and soon we go to the actual railings themselves. So this is a look at a property that we've so far built in about 3.5 months. And right now we're at 80% on this property. So if someone were to start in March, you have March, April, May, June, you have 4 months before rainy season, you have 4 months to get the outside completed, and then you spend a month on the inside, and that could be during rainy season. One of the reasons why we like a very high property, 33 feet high, is because you can see the sea from one side and turn the other way and see the lagoon. We're able to create a palapa on top of the roof. Now, this is the spot where we'll put it, and we'll have a 15-foot by 15-foot palapa where we have a nice shaded area where you can sit back and relax on the roof. We prefer the flat roof. And the reason why is because if there are strong winds or even hurricane winds, there's nothing for the hurricane winds to grab onto. And it just creates more living space for your enjoyment. Also, if you look at these roofs here, 25 years from now, these roofs do not look as good because of all the sea salt erosion. You always want to be able to walk out, relax. For many people, suntan, jump in the pool, come on back out, have a pool party. Hot tub is always great for friends and guests. So a pool, I believe, is an important amenity that you want to have on your property. And this is the exact same example of the pool that we're building. I've always been a firm believer that you should have a say in the material and supply chain of the things you require to build a property. And that's why we manufacture our own brick. We have a German system that we purchased and have mastered over the last 4 years, which allows us to make our brick. And with that brick, we can do a lot of accent work. We can even build houses with it. Bottom line is, at least we control the supply line. I think it's really, really important. We also produce our own lightweight cement. This is a formula we've purchased. This cellulose lightweight cement formula, we're able to fill our blocks with it, all of our cinder blocks or our cement blocks, and we produce it on site with our own equipment. Another area that we're excellent in, we use epoxy to create specially designed countertops that are very long lasting. Looking in the upper left-hand corner, this countertop looks like marble, but it's simply wood and epoxy. And it has an extremely long life. We could even do this type of countertop, whether for a washroom or for a kitchen, with beautiful designs in it. Or we could even take natural wood from the area and put this incredible epoxy finish on it to create these amazing countertops or even tables that our customers desire. Taking a moment to look at your lower left-hand corner, this washroom surround looks like marble. But again, this is another representation of an epoxy print that we create. And we can also create our own floors so that we're cutting costs and having more control of the supply line, which means we depend less on others and the excuses that others bring. One of the ways that we differ from a lot of companies is we have our own company vehicles, our equipment, and our systems. Whether it's a crane or a bobcat or a scissors lift, all three of these simple methods are not common, but really allow us to conserve energy, save labor costs, save time, reduce stress. We're even able to polish our own floors, and we make and bend rebar using a system that no one in the area actually uses. Because one of my brother's gifts is the ability to look at a system and question it, and then combine 2 or 3 modern methods to make that system efficient, stronger, and better. And that's important. I look at some of the company vehicles. I find it amazing to see some people making small batches of cement or concrete where you have an inconsistent batch throughout the day. We don't mind bringing in heavy equipment so we have consistency in our pour and just pour all in one shot. So at this point, I want to just take a moment to thank you for coming along with us on this journey. And I'm hoping it has been informative and it's something that interests you and you can see yourself in Belize doing some things that I find interesting and I think you and your family will enjoy. I'm looking for 2 different people. First, the person I'm looking for is an investor to come on board with us as part of us. I'm asking, are you the one? And what we're looking for is an investment partner to bring in equity money. And as you bring in equity money, you get 20% share of the profit when it comes to land purchases. It's so important for us to secure a land and then have land to build on, because as I mentioned, I believe that as of 2022, it's going to go like crazy, but now is the time to build. You have to prepare dinner before the guests show up. And we're looking for somebody who's going to help us buy land by investing money with us. And we provide the modern techniques, we provide the time-saving procedures, we have the manufacturing materials, we have the money-saving systems, and we have the proven trades and the skill set to actually build down there, as well as we have great government relationship. We have great connections with architects and suppliers, and all that we've spent 4 or 5 years putting together. I think it's really important. And my question to you is, are you that person? Will you step up and be part of our team? It's got to be somebody who shares our belief system in being able to provide incredible service, do things when you say you're going to do it, and do what you say. And if you provide service, do things on time, and just do what you say, I think the customer will be happy and we benefit also. The second person I'm looking for will actually be 6 people for our next development project. And it's somebody who is hearing the call. So my question to you is, do you hear the call of Belize? What we have is an 81-foot by 70-foot deep lot waiting for you. We have 6 of those, and we want to put 6 Canadians side by side on a street. We're looking to build a property that's a triplex for each person. And that's the property I talked about for around $400,000, which is land, building. Your closing costs are about $27,500 on top of that. And with that, we're hoping to have that property built before the big rush coming in. Now, the best time to build is from March to September. And therefore, we're looking for people sooner than later. Now, number 3, the concept is to have it as a vacational home that you can use one of the floors, but have 2 people there consistently throughout the year. And the space that you can use, that space can be rented on a weekly basis. That's a winning strategy that we've pioneered and has worked well for us. People always ask, when is the best time to actually act on something? And I always tell them, the best time is now. So, do you hear the call? Will you refuse the call? Hopefully, you answer the call and you move forward with us. Thank you for your time. I look forward to talking to you about our actual project on a one-on-one basis. I think you'll find it very interesting.